I'm Timothy Vigil, and this is Just Another Word podcast. B is for bittersweet. I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them. Andy Bernard, The Office. When those words were first spoken in the final episode of the American sitcom The Office, the internet was abuzz. Could one line so perfectly sum up the end of something held so dear by so many? The words held massive weight. They punched an entire fan base in the heart and reminded us to stop and reflect, to enjoy and live and remember. You see, we spend so much of our lives rushing toward the next big thing, only to look back and realize the magic was always in the mundane moments that came before. The end of the journey has come. One door has closed, even if a new adventure waits ahead. Our heart is pulled in two ways at once. What is bittersweet? Bittersweet, like so many words, started its life literally meaning what it sounds like. Bitter and sweet. It came around in the 14th century to describe apples that possessed both sweetness and bitterness. That was it. Simple. But it wasn't until the 17th century that we started to use the word to speak of our emotions. The Romantic era that truly brought this word to the forefront, because at that time, sublime melancholy was the peak of artistic expression. But we still love the idea of bittersweet today. Our culture is currently obsessed with nostalgia. We reboot old shows, we buy vintage clothes, we chase the aesthetics of decades we barely lived through. Our obsession is a reminder of how powerful bittersweet is as a concept. We love those days in the past. We love the feeling of reliving them, even if we know we can never truly taste the full sweetness of those moments again. We're all just trying to find a taste of the good old days, even while we stand in the middle of our new ones. Bittersweet, I think, is a concept that is so powerful in storytelling that it comes back again and again and again. Think of the climax of the film Inside Out. Could there be a more literal manifestation of bittersweet? Joy realizes that sadness must touch Riley's core memories, which Joy has been bogarting. But only if sadness touches those memories can Riley grow. The memories, those core memories, shift, becoming a mix of joy and sadness. Bitterness making the sweetness even more savorable. Or think of the end of The Lord of the Rings. Frodo saved the world, but not for himself. He has to sail away, leaving his friends to live where he cannot. Their victory over Mordor was total, but the loss was personal. As Sam, Merry, and Pippin are forced to say goodbye to Frodo on the shores of the Grey Havens, we all feel that moment. The victory was sweet, but now it's time to say goodbye. Bittersweet endings are important. But why? I think it's because they connect with our reality. Consider the end of C.S. Lewis's Prince Caspian. The Pevensies have won. They returned to Narnia, and now they've helped Caspian regain his throne as the rightful king. But their triumph is slashed with grief. Their return to Narnia, which they have been longing for, ends when Aslan tells Peter and Susan, the two elder Pevensey children, that they are too old to ever return. As a reader, I remember feeling how excited I was that they succeeded. And then an ache of sadness that they would never get to return again. It feels so real because it mirrors our own growth, leaving childhood behind to gain the world. Bittersweet is a word set apart by its duality. It's a perfect word for storytelling because it's a word that we can use when there is specific gain and specific loss happening simultaneously. Though this often comes from the end of an era or a choice, as a word for storytelling, bittersweet is set apart because of its duality in purpose. It's a perfect word to use when there is a specific gain and a specific loss happening simultaneously. I think bittersweet is a word that can be used by characters or by you telling a story, but it also can be an emotion that we try and invoke by showing both the gain and the loss in the same moment. Every story, at least every great story, contains these moments, and it should. Not every moment should be bittersweet. Some moments might not contain both. They might just be touching or piercing, and poignant might be a better word for those moments. But bittersweet is both a word we can use and a goal we can aim for in our storytelling. Our stories, our most connecting stories, should always contain both joy and sadness. They should leave us feeling like even as we have gained, we have lost. They should leave us feeling connected to the true accomplishments and the consequences. Because when stories can connect on this level, they are truly alive. You have been listening to Just Another Word podcast with your host, Timothy Vigil. For more information, go to timothyvigil.com.